Hey, everybody out there in podcast world, all our Same Dad fans out there. This is Jesse and my sister Kellie, and we're back again for another fantastic episode of storytelling and jokes and anecdotes about our everyday living. How you doing today, Kellie?
I'm doing well. How about you, Jess?
Oh, pretty good. Just made it back in yesterday from the family reunion that we spoke of on last week's episode, and I have to say that everything went really good. It was a really enjoyable time.
It was. Yeah, I didn't really know what to expect either. We were thinking about it's been a long time since we've all been together, and COVID kind of created these bubbles of antisocial behavior. And so breaking out of those has been a real challenge. It really has for me in the last year. So I was happy to see family, and it seemed like everyone else was happy to visit as well. What did you get from it?
Yeah, I thought I could kind of tell everybody, it's everybody's different, in a resilient kind of a way. Like it had a different kind of tone where it seemed like everybody was just kind of just happy to be around family. Like nobody really everybody was really calm and mellow. A lot of people just, telling stories or exchanging jokes, just a lot of positive conversation, really. It was really enjoyable to see aunts and uncles and cousins I hadn't seen in seems like forever.
Yeah, I was really pleased. There were a couple of cousins that really traveled pretty far to get there. And so you could tell, I think even the one cousin said that, he really had looked forward to it. In fact, I think his quote was, "I really needed this." And so that's all I needed to hear. I think that was a pretty big takeaway. And I was glad that I went, glad that all four of my family members were able to come. And um, I kind of had envisioned maybe a little bit more of like an attempt to play pitch and catch or some frisbee, but that it really wasn't about that. Even though we were at a park and it was a warm, nice summer day, it was just more about kind of reconnecting. And so I think it was really good, really good.
Yeah, the conversation took the lead, and that was nice.
Yeah, for sure.
I uh I was impressed with I didn't have any of the sides or anything. I wish I would have. I had the drizzled shits most of that day. I uh I don't know if it was the Frisch's Big Boy the day prior, but something was just cleaning me out. And then the hot August day, and I went to the bathroom there at the park with some of Eli's baby wipes, and I sweated buckets in there, and it just seemed like my recovery nowadays. I used up all of my heat endurance, I think, living in Texas and deployments throughout my military career, and it's just it's hard now for me to keep up. I think everybody's born with so much like core heat endurance, and I think I spent all mine. So my eating habits to follow up, the mudslides I was producing. I didn't go for any sides. I just saw what was really cool was when they were cooking the meat, they pre-bunned it. So I just walked over to like a glass tray, and there were
Yeah.
like hot dogs cooked in the bun already. So I'm just sort of like making my rounds. I ate about four of them hot dogs and drank a few beers and some water, and that was what I had. I think I even passed on our uncle's birthday cake. I was just thinking, like the calmness of a hot dog and some bread, and they were plain. I didn't put nothing on them. I was just just eating them that way. So I wish I'd have maybe been able to get into the food a bit more, but I wasn't quite at 100% on the inside there. So, but yeah, it was a good time. I actually had an opportunity to shower in between because I had ran the wife and son back home, and we are back to the parents' house, and that's not very far from the park. So I jumped in the shower for a bit and then changed clothes and went back, and that was really refreshing.
I always, as a kid, always panicked leaving an event because my fear was always you'd leave and you'd come back and it was a totally different vibe, or 3 or 5 people had left, and the very people that you're wanting to come back to see, and they're gone now. But yeah, it seemed like you picked up right where you left off. The place was still pretty chill. There was, and it was multi-generational. So as you know, your mom has a large family, and so I guess I'm thinking about past Christmas gatherings where there's at least 20 cousins, and then I forget, wait a minute, those 20 cousins are now 40. they're not running around on the coattails of their parents because they have to come to an event. They've got lives. So I guess that's natural. It kind of evolves that way. But in the core group who came, it was just a really good visit. Celebrated a birthday, celebrated some health wins for the last couple of years. People were sharing some personal stories, and yeah, I would say it was a great gathering. I knew, though, I was telling you earlier that your mom's side of the family tends to run a little late, and that's not a secret. But so if the gathering's scheduled at 3, you can almost bank on eating at 5 or a little later. But it seemed like as we all get in our old age that we all expect to eat by 3. 5 would be like max. So people were chomping at the bit, and I show up, and we get there about an hour into the get together, and of course, I knew your mom would greet us. She's like the eternal hostess. So she would come out and help gather things in. What'd you bring? 2 crock pots, helps you carry them in. And I don't think your mom's going to change in that way. So that was nice to see, too. It just seemed like old times.
Yeah, I think I think the Mike Tyson tattoo was a hit.
I do, too. Did you see some responses on Facebook?
Yeah, I was gonna tell you, for the viewers out there, some of these folks I hadn't seen for probably on average 5 to 10 years. So I couple of days before we drove out, I decided to order some Mike Tyson tattoos, and this company was also kind enough to throw some extra Playboy bunnies in there. And so for about $16 shipping and handling, I had these sent to my folks' house. And myself and Dad, we each put on a Mike Tyson face tattoo, and then I slapped one of the Playboy bunnies on my lower deck, like right under my ear, and had a nice collared shirt on, and rolled into this dinner and didn't flinch, and I think I got a few of them with it, a funny response. And I thought to myself, what's a real good way I can hit home with this? So I got up today and I typed out a good paragraph long, heartfelt statement of what I thought of Iron Mike Tyson. Actually, I could probably just find it real quick and read it out loud to you guys. It was basically just I wanted it to be sincere enough so people would believe that I really got this Iron Mike tattoo over Facebook for the folks that weren't at the dinner, or just as a social test to see if people really believe that I'm fucked up to do something like that.
I can share the picture.
All right, yeah. I put this is on Facebook 9 hours ago today. During my recent trip home to Indiana, where my hero was incarcerated for a crime he never committed. I did some heavy soul searching. Those of you that know me very well understand how much Iron Mike Tyson has meant to me as an 80s kid. He has always been an inspiration to me and my power animal. The last 2 years have really tested me as a son, father, brother, uncle, friend, and a family man. During COVID and all the mental and spiritual struggles I faced as a man, I finally decided to honor my childhood hero with this tattoo. $800 later, and a leap of human expression, I'm proud of the dedication to my hero, Iron Mike. And then I posted an image up on Facebook of me making a fist with that gnarly temporary Iron Mike Tyson tattoo on it. And the feedback has been pretty good. My wife has gotten text from her little side text on her phone throughout the day from family members asking if I really got the tattoo done or not. So she's been fielding those text messages coming in. So it did the trick, and it goes to show you, it's funny just to see what people think. Like, man, Jesse is kind of a nut. Did he really get that done? I mean, it was enough to trigger some concern or a bit of research on people's behalf through Nicole to see if I really got the Iron Mike done.
Yeah, I think that was for me when I most enjoyed the tattoo. I mean, seeing it at the reunion and the Playboy bunny on your neck, and just seeing people's immediate reaction. But and I don't know how much before or after some of these comments are from those who were at the get together who knew it was fake, but some were kind of treading lightly on their comments, and that's what makes me giggle. They're like, way to go, man, I always knew you had it in you. Or I think one of the cousins, excellent, looks pretty neat on you. You could tell they weren't sure what to say, but
one of them helped me out. I pre-gamed him, and he gave me a nice little spread. I said, hey, I need you to put some gas on this,
Yeah.
Yeah, he hooked me up. But yeah, it's still running, so I'm sure I'll get a few more behind the scenes text messages or like some WTFs or whatever, And what's funny is there's probably gonna be a few people that are they're just gonna assume that I have that for the rest of my life, probably. But that's all right. Use it as a barometer to see how often I interact with folks, I guess. Or like what their knee-jerk thought would be. Like, would he really do that?
So I guess that means when you finally get the Cupid on your left shoulder, then it will be less of a blow or surprise.
Mike Tyson boxed for 20 years and ended up fucking up his own face. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, he's a crazy character. I remember that video game he had, Mike Tyson Punch Out. That's the shit. I still play that every now and then. And he said in an interview that he signed a agreement to get a check for $50,000, and that was it. And that game grossed multiple millions. It's one of the greatest video games of all time. He said that's his biggest regret, that he didn't know anything about business. He was just a young kid in the streets. Yeah, whatever, man. 50 grand, just sign the paper and go on. He had no idea that it would live on in infamy.
Did you ever see his one-man show?
No, I want to. I'd love to. I just like hearing the guy, what can be understood of him, listening to him tell stories about growing up. And
it's a great one. I mean, it's been a while back, and it's actually, I think his speech was a little bit better then. I think maybe his Parkinson's or whatever's developed from his boxing career has progressed since then, but he definitely has a story to tell. That's a good one. It's a good stand-up. I think it was about 5 years ago, maybe, but it was yeah, he was kind of just telling his story, and some of the stuff was pretty shocking about how he can't, and then who was his promoter with it? Don King, was that his promoter early on?
Yeah, he took him for a lot of money.
He
Don
talked through that a
King.
little bit. I mean, he kind of just aired out everything he'd experienced up to that point. So
Yeah, he at one point he had, I don't know what it was, like $300 million, and then pennies on the dollar, if even that. Just crazy. And then of course we all remember him from the Hangover movie, the Phil Collins riff, and then he decks that guy. That's my favorite part.
well, I mean, we're skipping a whole bit of his history in that he was in an Indiana prison, so he lived near us for a while, or me.
Yeah, he was over there in Pendleton, wasn't it?
I think for a little while, and then maybe in Plainfield. I'm not sure, but
Yeah,
yeah, definitely a sordid story, sordid past.
he he said he wasn't nearly the baddest dude in that prison. If you could just imagine Iron Mike being worried.
I don't pretend to know any of that or expect to have a comment on that. All I can say is that when I was in public health for years, I would go to the pre-release center at Pendleton, and a lot of that was like re-education before release. Some of those men that I would speak to had been in there for quite some time. Some were just kind of a revolving door, unfortunately. But at least at that time in their life, at no other, are they the most respectful and eager to learn, because they want to get out, and they have high hopes. But I can't say behind the scenes. There are a couple of times that I would go pretty deep into the Pendleton Reformatory and do some talks, and it always seemed like the more I would go back there, the more something seemed a little bit riskier every time I would go. Like maybe the guard situation was a little leaner next time, or the crowd they would let into the class was a little bigger. And so over time, I think they just stopped doing that program kind of deep into the prison. So I can't imagine. My little glimpse was really nothing, probably.
Yeah, I had a I applied for a job there years ago when I was early on into my meteoric rise at Lowe's home improvement store back when I was
Love Lowe's.
19 or 20 years old, and I just
Mhm.
I applied for a job out there at the correctional facility, and I didn't really, but not much different than now. I do shit, and I don't really think or pay much much attention to like what it's really going to be. And I went in there, and it's funny. I without knowing, there was a cashier from employed by Lowe's as well that was at this orientation for this prison job, and I guess it was for to be a guard out there. And we're in orientation, and then they're talking about like gun training and all this shit, and I'm like, man, what the fuck is all this? And then they walk us down some of the halls, and some of them guys, they're all in their cells staring at us, hooting and hollering at the women we had with us. And they walked us up right into one of the little living quarters where them guys are loose in there. And needless to say, just after that one walkthrough, I didn't go back, and I don't think she went back either. I remember seeing her right back at work too, and I don't think either of us spoke about it ever.
Now, wait a minute. Your recruits coming from Lowe's, and if I remember correctly, you telling me one time about how back then, at least, it was not uncommon for the Lowe's crew to kind of make it a game to see who could be the least accessible to the public. Like there would be times you talk about, it was a real challenge to not make yourself available in case somebody needed something, but still remain, like a decent employee or still remain employed. And I can tell you from a customer standpoint, it seems like a lot of people learn that skill at Lowe's. It's like as soon as I need something, there's no one to be found. So I
Yeah,
think
it's
about your early days at Lowe's, trying to like hide behind the cabinetry or
man, there was one time I cut the shit out of my hand real bad. I was stacking up, I think they were crawl space covers for houses, where you get underneath there where all the gravel and shit is at to like work on pipes and stuff. How most houses have like either a plastic flap or a piece of plywood or like an arched piece of metal, just to go over that opening so it's not 100% exposed to the weather. I was stacking some of the metal arched ones and I cut the shit out of the palm of my hand. It was so sharp I didn't know I had cut it, and I looked down and there's just blood everywhere. And I'm walking to the bathroom with the blood pooling up in the palm of my hand, leaving a snail trail, a DNA. And this one fucker like had the nerve to like stop me and ask me if I could help him find something. And I'm like, bro, you don't see my hand? Look at it. I mean, it was down to the meat. It was friggin' nasty. I'm surprised I didn't lose feeling in my thumb. I mean, it was gnarly. It looked like just a meat cleaver or something whacked it, and
I don't remember that story.
Yeah, it was pretty rough. But that's just one of the examples of like the relentless interaction that people would have. I'd have people walk out to the back of the building and look for anybody to help them, because like sometimes we were so short-handed and I had to drive the forklift. Imagine me driving a forklift like in the snow or something. Those forklifts get stuck in like an inch of snow because the ass end is where all the weight's at. And then the wheels in the front drive it, So I'm out there getting stuck trying to unload all these big old pallets of quickcrete and drywall and stuff, and people would just find their way out there, out into the back of the building and track you down. I guess they just heard the fork truck running, so they was like, well, there's a human somewhere. And yeah, it was an experience working there. A lot of different yeah, a lot of different characters. I had this one old boss, one of the best bosses I ever had. His name was Larry. He's probably passed on now. He's probably in the 70s. I always heard a story that he had a ton of money wrapped up in stocks or some kind of retirement plan, and then the company folded, so he lost everything, and then he got a job out there as a manager, and he just walk around smoking his pipe, and he would always just come up and nudge me and point out all the women. Like he'd always have some perverted old man statement, and then he just kind of sashay on like kind of like the God Pigeon from the Animaniacs, that old cartoon. And he had me one time. He said, Jesse, and he's puffing on his pipe. He said, I need you to make a sign out here because these assholes are driving under the awning the wrong way, the loading dock. And they were, everybody's getting bogged up. And I never worked with concrete before or nothing. So I grabbed the classic white Lowe's bucket, like the big paint bucket, that it's heavy as shit and the damn lids barely come off. I got one of those. A wooden stake, like a 2x2, about 4 foot long, and then a sign. I put the sign and the board in too late. There's a reason they call that shit quickcrete.
Yeah.
I mean, I I didn't know what I was doing, so I emptied the whole bag in there with some water. So this bucket's filled to the brim. So it's like 100 pounds, right? And then I'm like, oh fuck, this thing's drying up because I couldn't get the steak to go down. So it took all my body weight to get this steak like an inch and a half deep in this Quickcrete, and to try to get it to the hole because I didn't want to look like a stooge in front of Larry. Because I'd already screwed up once. They told me to salt the salt the walkways because it was about to snow. He come up huffing on his pipe and rolling his eyes. I think he had another dirty joke or two, and then he said, I need you to salt these walkways. And I didn't know any different. I salted the whole front of the damn store with water softener pellets.
That's classic. So what was Larry's reaction?
He just shook his head. He liked me too much to fire me, but I mean he learned then that I wasn't the sharpest knife in the drawer when it came to shit like that. Yeah, I was like, everybody kept walking out. The carts were getting caught on them, and them pellets are hard.
Yeah, they are.
Put like several thousand in a walkway.
And so, if I'm not mistaken, we're talking about those big white pellets.
Yeah, they look like suppositories.
Yeah. So yes, you dusted like multiple bags of suppositories.
Them yellow bags. Yeah, I just caked it with these pellets.
I'm gonna do an extra good job for Larry because I like him.
Yeah, Larry's a good guy. So I'm gonna have people twist their ankles on these.
I'm gonna create an incident report every half hour. Well, what is it with so Lowe's kind of took a turn probably about 2 or 3 years ago, and maybe I just didn't get the memo, but walking through Lowe's, it's not uncommon to see 2 or 3 dogs at any given time being walked through Lowe's. So I don't know if they just were poor on putting a policy together to not allow for that, or, which I am perfectly fine. Obviously, service dogs needed, that to accommodate for that need, but it turned into almost like a dog walking park for a while, especially during the winter. And then, when COVID hit, it was one of the, I guess many would say, mask-friendly places or mask-free friendly places, unlike Menards, who, were the other direction. And so it was a place to kind of almost come and socialize, to walk your dog. It turned into a really weird space. So I don't know. Maybe you've got some insight on that. I don't have, but
no, I don't know. I think that is weird. I don't know. Maybe they start selling squeaky toys in there or something.
Kind of like PetSmart, or another big chain would allow for, if it's a animal oriented retail space. I get it, but I never could figure that out, and it always seemed to me, I don't know about you, but I've had 2 or 3 dogs in my life that I really felt like were my dogs that I helped raise or train, but I never felt comfortable taking my dog into a public space where I didn't know the other dogs, and so,
right.
Well, even walking around a local park, sometimes I'm a little hesitant because I'm thinking, I don't know your dog. I know my dog's pretty docile, but if pushed, there could be something happen. So I don't know, but I'm thinking wouldn't even risk that in Lowe's.
Yeah, I'd have anxiety that my dog would piss or shit everywhere while I was in there.
Oh yeah, the whole thing. But I do remember. Yeah, well, I'll leave that story for another time. But one time I did try to take my dog to an obedience class. I had my little Boston Terrier, and he was so neurotic and so nervous everywhere he would go. He was about 5 months old, and I thought, well, I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to get him trained, and we're going to do this right so we can be with friends. And so I get him there, and they automatically tell us we have to use those kind of claw collars, if you've ever seen. So if you do a quick little jerk, they kind of go in. And so, here I am, the dutiful dog owner, new dog owner. I'm like, well, if they tell me that's what I should do, I'm going to get one. So I get one, and I take Archie there. And, we're walking through some sort of routine with the dogs, and we pivot. He gets, a sideways look from another dog, and he starts taking off that direction, and I do what I think I'm supposed to do, and I clinch that thing. It had like a direct relationship to his bowels somehow, because he just immediately squirted everywhere. Like the whole scene was just terrible. So, I dutifully clean that up, and I exit stage left to never return. I thought I'm gonna train my baby pup my own way. But that whole experience was not good. Anyway, I digress. That was another dog story that was unexpected.
Yeah, it's I think I don't know if it reflects on our family tree or not, but our immediate family is just known for having neurotic pets.
Yeah, I don't want to know what that means really, but you're right.
Like pets that just can't intermingle with anyone except like their owner directly.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what you try to do, it's just like, literally, no pun intended, just like you described, it's a shit show.
Yeah, it was but you're right, I don't know what that's about. Now I have a dog now that we've had for about 8 years, and she's probably been one of the most docile dogs that I've ever owned. And it's of no training from us, it's not our doing, but she is a great dog. It's just yeah, I mean, it's definitely neuroses that's transferred from the owner, I'm quite sure, in some way, whether we can put our fingers on it or not. She's definitely got her own quirky way, but I wouldn't have it any other way, though. I know that you had a special dog in your life for years, and I don't know if you guys plan on ever getting a dog anytime again, but man, they leave a hole, don't they?
Yeah, we lost our English bulldog Riley. It was over COVID. It was still going on. I think it was about a year ago, towards the end of August of last year. He lived to be 10 years and a couple of days. And man, I'll tell you, that last month or so is really rough. I mean, when he was starting to decline, just the little things, your mind adapts to what you think their 100% is. Like, even, like when he was getting really ill, if he would just walk a little bit, or if he would just nibble some food, you were so happy, and you thought, okay, well, we can live like this, or I can give you this medicine and we'll be good to go. And you forget how vibrant and young they were at one point, and all the different people that they have met and interacted with. He traveled with us from state to state everywhere, and lived in several different homes with us. And to see his journey and where it did was kind of peculiar. We had just moved here, so he didn't really get a chance to really put his footprint on this place. And for it to, the veterinarian here in town was a class act. Like, when we lived in Wichita Falls, I just always assumed if he'd passed, those would be the people that had years with him, would know how to, they would be the ones. But it ended up being a totally different group of people, and they were completely professional. The hardest thing is when you have a dog that's dying during COVID, you can't go in there during the appointments. So for about a month straight, I was taking him there 2 or 3 times a week for different reasons, just trying anything, seeing if it would work. Like if he took to a food, I'd buy a whole flat of that food and then he wouldn't eat it, or a medicine, I'd get all the medicine and give it to him and then he'd quit taking that medicine. We had like a countertop full of different food variants, from flavors to moistness to whatever, to different antidotes and pills, just anything that we could try to do. And it was pretty much his liver gave out on him, probably liver cancer. And that last month or so was rough. I remember we had just got all of our stuff set up in the apartment, so we had finally turned that corner. And I remember just sitting there watching. I watched Perfect Strangers from beginning to end. That old 1988, 86, I don't know, with Balky and Larry Appleton living in Chicago. And I watched it on Hulu, and I had Hulu with ads, so they'd always play this granola bar commercial with this sappy song. And I got to, he had passed away, and I had about 8 episodes left, and I finished it off. And every time they play that fucking granola bar commercial, it just was like, oh, god damn it. Because you just see him, he's just laying there dying, and take him in and try to do the right thing, keep him from suffering. And it's rough. I'd say I loved him, I'd say viewers out there, get a turtle or a parrot or something that'll live for like 150 years, so you can just give it to somebody. That's the hardest thing, and you learn a lot from a dog, and he don't ever speak one word to you, but you learn a lot from a dog more than you do most people.
Yeah, you're right about that. Got some ice that's being crushed behind me, so don't mind that. I think anybody who's lost a pet can relate to what you're talking about. And I think, not that we intended to get on this subject, but, talking about dogs and our pets and really kind of what they've meant to us in the last 2 years, I can see in my own household, we went for about a full year without having a dog after Archie, our Boston, passed. And similar story, it's time. You just have to bring yourself to make that phone call. And to me, that was the most difficult phone call I've ever made in my whole life. And in fact, I got 2 words out, and the receptionist on the other end knew what kind of appointment I was making. So, but I always tell my current dog, and this is again a reflection of how I guess I treat my dogs. We've always treated them like kind of family or humans. But I always say to others, or I even say to the dog, hey, I loved you this much because Archie showed me how, so there was a reason for that period of my life. And raising a dog, I had Archie for 16 years. And so I knew that I wanted a dog in my life. It just was a matter of when. And so this time around, instead of going to a breeder and waiting for pups to be born, we did go to the local animal shelter. And I'll tell you, there's something that it's a different kind of reward when you do that. So if you ever consider a dog again, I would have you consider checking out your local animal shelter for that option, because we've had a great experience, and the bond is strong for sure. So, all right, enough of that.
Well, we can say I brought some souvenirs home with me from Indiana, about 7 mosquito bites.
No kidding.
Still itching, and they managed to get, like if you sat on a lawn chair, you get the first ounce of exposed ass and thigh that's not on the seat physically. Mm-hmm. Like I had they got through my shorts and underwear and just lit up the rim of my thigh/ass cheek area, and then they got my ankles and my forearms. Poor Eli, he got bit 2 or 3 times, and they look like big nipples growing on him. He's got that porcelain ginger skin, so like if there's any like abrasion, it just looks way worse, you know.
Yeah, when I think I showed up, he'd already been blessed with a big temple abrasion.
Yeah.
Poor buddy.
I try to, whenever he has that shit on his skin, I try to dress up a little bit and not look like a dirtbag. The first thing they think is it's probably me trying, you know what I mean? Like I think, well, I'm gonna have to wear a nice shirt until these abrasions clear up and try to talk like I'm intelligent.
So that's how you gauge the going out attire. It's like, what's Mom, what's Eli's face look like tonight?
Yeah, poor guy. He gets a bug bite and it's just awful. It's huge.
Well, it must be running in the bloodline because my daughter is the same way. I used to be worse, but it seems like they kind of have avoided me the last few seasons. I don't know, chemistry changes or what. But, you know, speaking of health, and we talk about this on and off in some of our talks, and we talked about COVID a little bit, and I just wanted to bring this up. And I don't know if there's anybody out there that's, you know, delayed looking after their own health over the last 2 years, just because essentially in February or March of 2020, everything kind of shut down other than, you know, necessity medical care. And so I go to the doctor so fast forward from January 20, I had this great doctor's visit. I was really going to start working on my health and really make some health changes. She had provided me with some resources and I was kind of on my way. And then COVID hit, and it's just like a big blur, you know, in terms of the eating and drinking frenzy that ensued in this household is really just a blur. It was just a day-to-day thing, and being able to work from home and then not worrying about whether the clothes fit or not, or worrying about, you know, really anything, just getting through the day sometimes. So fast forward, I show up to the doctor August 4th, a totally different human being. You know, X amount of pounds different. Let's see, too much information, but most likely through much of menopause, which, you know, I was not that way when I first was there in January of 20. We've had cancer in our family. We've had obviously COVID. My kids have had experiences with COVID, being school athletes. So anyway, I show up and I tell her, okay, I'm going to tell you 3 things about me that weren't the same as of last year or 2 years ago. And I said, COVID, menopause, and cancer. So that was my starting point to my recent doctor's visit. So for anybody out there that's delayed going or resuming their medical care, it's never too late. Now's the time. Get that in before our next wave hits. I'm encouraging you, know your numbers. Don't go under a rock and in the hole again for the next year, because I don't know if our health can take it. Mental health, don't let me get started on mental health. I know that's something we talk about or reference in this show too, but yeah, believe me, I walked out of there with about a half a ream of paper of referrals, and just trying to wade through them now.
Yeah.
Don't be ashamed. Don't be ashamed at all. Tell your story and let it all hang out.
I had years ago when I was in the military, they found something weird with my heart. They took some kind of, I don't know what it is, EKG or something, and they found out that there's like a little blip in it or something where my heart, the electrons, wherever the hell it is, it makes your heart beat, they go a different direction in one spot, and they had me go to this specialist at this hospital, and this was kind of at a time in the military where I wasn't in the greatest shape. Out of the years that I was in, I'd put some weight on, and I didn't get any sun. And I don't know the last time that I had manscaped any part of my body, and they had me take my shirt off, and I had like the line mane from the ball throw to the belly button connected with hair, and I had each of my nipples had a Conan O'Brien haircut of their own, and I had like 3-inch nipple hair. It was hideous, wavy, and my chest hair doesn't grow in healthy. It looks like like somebody trying to grow grass in the ghetto. It's all splotchy and really long, and they're sticking these fucking sticky pads on me, and all women in there, and I'm pale with all these sticky pads and these wires, and they're having me run on this treadmill, and I'm just sweating bullets, super out of breath. Like, it was just like the one pocket in my Air Force career where I wasn't taking the best care of myself. Man, you talk about embarrassing. This as far as like from a visual standpoint. And then I ended up, ever since that day, I'm always shaved, just in case I end up getting hoisted to the hospital, or the shirt gets ripped off, or there's a scenario where maybe I'm in a heated confrontation at an Applebee's, and I got to judo flip a guy, and he tears my shirt before the cops show up, or some wild scene to where I won't be covered. Like, ever since that day, I'm always particular about being ready for exposure. But that was really embarrassing, being there with all that hair all over my body, and then damn sticky pads all over me. For sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a point of humility that we all could learn. And that's maybe for another show. I'd like to be able to share and maybe invite, my husband on sometime to tell a story about the first real serious health scare we've ever experienced. But I think it's important for people to, not that everybody needs to learn what it feels like to have a serious illness, but the point is, at some point in your life, you're going to have to take the guard down, open yourself up, wave the white flag and say, this is who I am, where I am, I need help. And this last year has really, I think, given us a sense of why that's important, and that humility and that trust and that openness, I think we're going to come out better on the other side. It's just some days it doesn't always feel like that. So if you can feel a little bit better about it by taking care of your manscaping, then I say go for it.
When did manscaping become a thing? Because I don't think Dad's probably ever shaved his balls in his life. So like, when did it get to a point where, I mean, it's a merchandising thing. These companies make millions selling these little man purses with all these little combs and shaving things and gels and whatnot. And I'm pretty sure that Dad and Granddad never got nowhere near their junk unless a nurse was doing it, like prior to an operation or something.
Yeah, I would say that you're right. In fact, I would say maybe the turning of that corner was somewhere maybe in the late 80s, early 90s. I can remember the last time I ever got a glimpse. Do you remember like those old Las Vegas playing cards of like 1975, and there'd be showgirls on there, and there was nothing being groomed in those photos. And so it seems to me like mid 70s to maybe mid 80s, there was this turning of self-care. But
Yeah.
yeah, you wouldn't see that now for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I took it on just as just being in hot climates, It's like, man,
Sure, Jesse.
there's no other. Yeah, and I just stand in front of a full body mirror and
Oh shit.
I wish I could grow hair on the top of my head like that. Yeah. Yeah, it's a different world now, that's for sure. But yeah, don't be afraid to be embarrassed at the doctor. Hell, we've all done that. That's for sure. Different reasons.
Well, we just got a call today that we as a family might be doing an educational talk based on our recent experience. And so I'm talking to the person who wants to book us. And I said, well, give me a sense of how many people will be there. What's the format? Is it Q&A? Is it a panel? Will we be with a doctor? And he says, oh, there'll be about 100 people there. They're basically all the stakeholders that are involved in both the treatment and education and vaccinations related to the kind of cancer that affected your family. And
Wow.
so, at first blush, it was kind of like, is this the right place we want to jump in with this conversation? But I think we're going to do it. It's at the end of this month. So I'll give an update on how that goes and if we do that. But
that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I think the story is important, and there is some stigma related to the experience. So we'll see how that goes. But I think talking about it's better than not sharing the story. So that's an important lesson that we're learning here.
Yeah, they may have some catering there too. Maybe some of the meatballs on a toothpick, or
You're right. You're right. If all goes south, at least we'll have a decent snack tray, right?
There you go.
Beanie weenies and
man. I like them little pigs in the blanket, or those sometimes you can get them cream cheese wrapped in them little hams or something.
Oh yes, like the pinwheels.
Oh my goodness.
Pickles and herbs and cream cheese. Oh yes.
Yeah. Yeah,
well,
for sure. I was thinking I was wondering if I was going to bring it up or not, but I think I should for the viewers. Right before we started filming this episode, I got a call from a good friend of mine who I had seen on this trip home last weekend. We had my buddies got together, and I found out well, one of them was missing during the get together, and I got a phone call just right before we started recording this that my old buddy back home, Andy Ash, had passed away yesterday. So what is today, August 10th?
Mm-hmm.
So the 9th, he passed away in the hospital. I assume it was respiratory infection that led, like sinuses, respiratory, and yeah, he was 41 years old, and kind of hit heavy. I knew him most of my life. I first met him playing T-League baseball together, and he had leg braces. He was a little kid with the leg braces, and he eventually grew out of those and loved sports. He loved the Colts and the Pacers, and just an all-around good guy, fun to be around. Yeah, it's sad, and I'm definitely gonna miss him. So Andy, I'm thinking of you, brother.
Yeah. I remember Andy coming over to play with you as my little brother, and um, one thing about Andy, he was always respectful, no matter what he was going through, no matter, how, what life had dealt him. And, he had some ups and downs, as we all have. But that's one thing I remember that was constant about Andy is he always had great manners, and he was always so friendly. So yeah.
Yeah, Andy, I'm thinking of you, man. I love you, brother. Rest in peace. Probably send some once I get like the address and everything, probably have the folks send some flowers. They lived right down the street from him, so probably have them maybe send something or a card. I don't know. We'll figure something out. But yeah, it's crazy, man. Time goes by so quick.
Well, Jesse, what do you say we wrap this session up and do our shout outs?
Yeah, we can do that. It's been another good episode. Let's see. As always, I believe in supporting our veterans. Treat them good. Take care of your mental health. That's always very important, man. Life is, tough sometimes. Just trying to find the good in it. Autism awareness. My son has autism. I'm proud of him. I love him. Learn about autism. We got some more media stuff. We got published up on iHeartRadio and Amazon Music. We're up there too, all under SameDadPodcast. Let's see, song for the day. I wasn't really thinking of it. Let's do Tom T. Hall. I think it's Old Dogs, Little Children, and Watermelon Wine. If I didn't mess that title up. You got anything to add, Kellie?
Just as we've already said, take care of yourself. Get back on the road to health. Consider getting a vaccination for COVID, or just getting caught up on your vaccinations in general. Wanted to give a shout out to my son, who's just earned his driver's license, and he's about to go to his first concert with his dad. So if I had to give a shout out for a song or a band, I'm going to say Chevelle and Rob Zombie. As anything on a playlist, go ahead and play that tonight, and celebrate a young man's first concert with his dad.
Yeah, Rob Zombie, I like him. In high school at CD had Hellbilly Deluxe. I played in a lot of cars for a long time. It was swapping that dude out or Metallica Black Album. That was the shit then. But yeah, we love everybody. We're up to about 90 views total on YouTube. Got about a dozen on the other outlets. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, Snapchat, TikTok, all those under Same Dad Podcast. Please subscribe, hit the little bell so you know when we upload a new video. Everybody take care of each other, and hope you enjoyed it. We love you. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Till next time.
See ya.